can try and win championships, and that's what it's all about. When you look from the outside and you watch this team, I know we're going to have a real good, solid hockey team this year.
Well, welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Eric Wilson. And of course, as you all know, yesterday concluded the 2022 NHL Draft. The Rangers made quite a few picks. And if you take a look at them, pretty much all of them were offensive picks. The Rangers really loaded up on a bunch of offensive playmakers, a bunch of prospects that play offense, and then one really Italian defenseman who I really like. But we're going to dive into this draft class, discuss some of the names to be excited about, and just kind of have a discussion on the draft class in general and kind of the idea by the Rangers to really load up on offense. But before we do that, how are you doing today, Eric?
Doing pretty good. I'm pretty satisfied with the way the draft went. Chris Drury did as good of a job as he could. Looking back on the entire thing, I would say letter grade wise, I would give the Rangers about a B. We made a lot of really solid picks, but I wouldn't give them like an A tier draft unless we had a first round pick, which we didn't. But like I said, Chris Drury once again worked his magic and did the best that he could with what he had.
Yeah, I think the Rangers did a solid job working with what they had. They didn't have a first round pick, of course. There were some rumors that maybe they would try and trade up into the first round. Some people actually were speculating that they could trade up really, really high into the top 5 picks. Of course, that didn't happen. They decided to just kind of stick and pick, work with what they had. And I think that the Rangers did a good job extrapolating as much value as they could from these draft selections that they had from rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But first player up that we want to discuss is, of course, round 2, 63rd overall pick, Adam Sykora out of Nitra, Slovakia. Now, this is a forward. He's 5'10", 172 pounds. And fun fact, he is the youngest player in the entire 2022 NHL draft class, 17 years old. Little guppy, somehow younger than Eric and I are. Very, very young guy. But I really like what he brings to the table. I think Adam Sykora is a very physical forward, good penalty killer. And I have a great quote from him where he was asked, like, who do you like to model your play after? And he said, quote, I really like Brad Marchand because he's like a rat and he's not scared of bigger players. And then he laughed and said, quote, I try to play that way, end quote. Eric, what are your initial thoughts on a quote like that?
It's a good quote, but it's also a scary quote because Brad Marchand is one of the most hated players in the NHL. He's very gritty. He plays a little dirty, but I don't think that's what Sykora meant when he said that. You look at a guy like Marchand. He's not the biggest player, but he's one of the better players in the league. He's a great playmaker. He always shoots the puck, and he's not afraid to get into people's faces when the play gets physical. And that's kind of what the Rangers need. Is that gritty physical play on the team. That's what we tried to get with Ryan Reeves, and it worked for a while, but Ryan Reeves kind of faded off in the playoffs and didn't really have that physical presence. So hopefully whenever Sykora is able to crack the roster and get in, he will be that first physical presence that we are looking for.
For sure, and that's what he's hoping to be. I got another quote, I try to play physical. I'm a hard-working player with a lot of energy and give a lot of hits, end quote. And I really like that. I think he's, a good force checker, and he's got good speed, some decent scoring ability. He recorded 10 goals and 17 points in 46 games with Nitra over in Slovakia. He added 2 goals in 5 games during the 2021 to 22 Hlinka Gretzky Cup, which I think is their playoffs. And he described himself as a high-energy player that loves to get under the skin of his opponents, kind of as Eric was mentioning. But, Eric, I want to, get your take on this. This was a forward in the second round, their first pick. This is the premier pick for the Rangers. What are your thoughts on, not using this necessarily on a center or a defenseman? They went ahead and they got just a forward who primarily plays on the wing. What is your thought on that?
I think it's pretty good. For now, at least. We got a couple other centers later on in the draft. Like you said, we focused mainly on offense, and I think that's really what we need to focus on. The Rangers are very stacked on the defensive end. We have our set core already in like their primes, and we have a lot of young defensive prospects as well. So we really didn't need that many defensemen. So definitely sticking with offense, getting a couple wingers and centers was definitely the right move because you can never have too many centers. You can never have too many wingers. But like you can't have too many defensemen like we see right now. So, sticking to the offensive side of the draft, choosing a winger, I think it was a good move. In my opinion, like around pick 60 to 63 where we drafted him is kind of when there's like a big drop off on the players. I think Sykora was definitely like the last top tier draft level player. at that part of the draft. So picking anyone else just wouldn't have made sense. It wouldn't have been a player of the same quality. So I'm happy that we chose him just to get a nice solid player when we could.
Absolutely. Good take there. And then I want to move on to round 3 with the 97th overall pick. I want to highlight this one because this is one of the picks that the Rangers got in the Alexander Georgiev trade with Colorado. They drafted Bryce McConnell-Barker, center, 6'1", 194 pounds, big guy from the Sioux Greyhounds of the Ontario Hockey League. He's 18 years old. He picked up 23 goals and 49 points in 68 games in the Ontario Hockey League. He added another 5 points in 10 playoff contests. He's a big dude. He plays both sides of the puck well. And he said that he likes to look at Patrice Bergeron as a model for his game. Eric, what is your initial thought on this big 18-year-old, 6'1" center, McConnell-Barker?
It's great. The OHL is a great league. So just to see that he put up 49 points in 68 games, that means he's a very solid player in that league. And to model his play after Patrice Bergeron, one of the best defensive forwards of our generation, that's a good sign. Throughout, like if you look at our current roster that we have, you have all these great players on offense, like Artemi Panarin, Chris Kreider, Zibanejad. But where we lack in offense is the defensive aspect. When the other team's carrying the puck up the ice, you're expecting your forwards to follow behind and be ready to set up and make a defensive play, which we haven't really done that much in the past years, which is why we've never been able to make it to the finals and win a cup. But look at a guy who bases his play off of Bergeron, that's what we'd have. He's always going to be looking to make the offensive play, but he's also always going to be ready to skate back down the ice and make a great defensive play as well. So that's very exciting to see that we finally picked up a bigger guy who's willing and able to do stuff like that.
Yeah, and it is interesting to note that, yes, the first 2 picks by the Rangers were both players that play, towards the top, and they play on offense, of course. You got pretty good physical presence with the 17-year-old Adam Sykora, and then, of course, the 6'1" center and McConnell-Barker. Both of these guys play offense, but they're both very physical, and they do contribute a lot defensively. So what do you think about that trend just from those first 2 rounds? And then, of course, we're going to get into round 3, or round 5, sorry. First 2 picks. The third pick is going to be a defenseman. What are your thoughts on the Rangers, yes, investing their draft capital into the offense, but making sure to get physical guys that can play defensively?
I think it was a very smart move by Chris Drury. When we have our picks that late into the draft, you're not going to pick up a instant superstar like a top 5 pick would be, or like pretty much any pick in the first round. And Chris Drury knew that we already have the offensive star power that we need for like the next decade. What we really need is the depth, the grit. I can see these guys playing on the third line together within the next 5 or 6 years. And that's exactly where we're going to need them. When our third line players get older, when Kako, Lafreniere, Hedel, if they're still on the team in the next few years, once they're ready to move into the top 6, I can see these young guys that we got sliding right into the third or fourth line right there to provide that necessary offense and grit that we've been looking for.
Absolutely, and I got a good quote from McConnell-Barker here before we move on to the next draft selection. Quote, "I'm a two-way centerman, and I work really hard all over the ice. I am good defensively, but I can produce offensively by getting the puck in the net and making some plays too." Really what you like to hear. A well-rounded skill set, physical presence from a 6'1" center, 18 years old. Really like both of these first 2 selections by the Rangers here. But moving on into their round 4 selection, the 111th overall pick. This is via the Brett Howden trade with Vegas. Noah Laba, center, 6'1", 181 pounds, played for the Lincoln Stars in the U.S. Hockey League. Laba is 18, is committed to play at Colgate University after registering 39 points in 50 games with the Lincoln Stars. Scouting reports have him as a power forward that's difficult to play against. So, once again, another center by the Rangers and another one that's very physical. Big guy, 6'1", 181 pounds, and reports say, again, power forward, difficult to play against. So, really continuing the trend from those first 2 selections, 3 in a row, offensive guys who are physical and can provide defensively up on the front. So, Eric, again, what is your thoughts on just 3 in a row right there? You're just seeing this trend by Chris Drury and the Rangers.
I mean, it's the same thing to say about the other 2. It's what we need. It couldn't hurt to draft 3 of them in a row. You can't guarantee that all 3 of them are going to pan out to great NHL players. So hopefully at least 1 or 2 will. And we're just going to try to make the best out of our picks. It's what we needed. And I'm happy that Chris Drury made the picks.
Yep, and let's move on to the round 5 selection, 159th overall. This is my favorite pick because you know me, Anthony Rivardo, that's my name. Super Italian name. A lot of my friends call me Tony, Tone, and this pick, oh man, do I love this guy. Vittorio Mancini, of course, very Italian guy right there. My great-grandfather's name was Vittorio, means victory if you didn't know. Love my Italian family. This is an awesome pick because of that. But he is a defenseman. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. Played at Nebraska Omaha in the NCAA. Super interesting for a guy that Italian to be living in Omaha, but I love it. A salute. Mancini is 20 years old, played 38 games in the NCAA, picking up 5 points, and also spent time with Frölunda in Sweden. And again, 6'3", 215-pound defenseman. Eric, what are your thoughts on my great Italian hero?
I think it's a great pick. You have to load up on a couple defensemen at least in the draft. We only took one this year because we do have a surplus of defensemen. But if we were going to take one, I'm happy that it was this guy. He's a big guy, 6'1", or I think, what was it, 6'1"? What was his height?
6'3", 215 pounds.
6'3", so even bigger. And he plays more of like a defensive defenseman type of game. We have a lot of offensive defensemen like Adam Fox, Keandre Miller, Jacob Trouba, and we don't really have that many defensive defensemen. Defensemen who aren't going to rush into the offensive play, but would rather sit back and protect our goalie. So this was a very good pick in my opinion. He should definitely pan out and hopefully crack the roster within a few years. But yeah, like I said, great defensive defenseman, and it's just what we needed.
Absolutely. I think it is just what we needed. More Italians. That's exactly what I like to see. Love it. I got a good quote from the director of scouting for the Rangers, John Lilly. He said, quote, "He's a player that when I was in Toronto, we watched and liked. He's a good defensive-minded player that's big, a high-character young man." End quote. Love to hear it. Really like Vittorio Mancini. If you couldn't tell, might just have to get his jersey or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of blowing this out of proportion, but I do really like this pick. Like this is the only defenseman that the Rangers drafted, and I do think he is a good player. 6'3", 215 pounds, super physical presence. Really like to see that. But we'll move on now to the next round 5 pick, the 161st overall pick. Going to highlight this one again as another draft pick that the Rangers received from the Alexander Georgiev trade with Colorado. Now, with this round 5, 161st overall pick, they drafted Maxim Barbashev. He's a forward. He's 6'1", 183 pounds. Played for the Moncton Wildcats, and he's 18 years old. Younger brother of Blues forward, Blues player Ivan Barbashev. So, pretty good family lineage right there. Eric, what is your initial thoughts on this draft pick?
Again, I think it's a great pick. I've been saying that a lot, but you can't not say that when Chris Drury's making your draft picks. Looking at his brother Ivan's play, he's good. So I'm assuming that this guy's going to base his play off of his brother. He has a great physical play style. He's a great forward checker. He likes to hit people. He's always against the boards, looking for the puck. And again, it's just that gritty play that trend continues onwards into the 5th round. And I couldn't be more happy that we're finally getting these types of players, instead of having offensive players who are just too fancy with the puck, afraid to get down and dirty and hit people and fight. We're really extending this bottom 6 where we're going to have a great 3rd and 4th line within the next couple of years.
Did I just hear you take a shot at Ryan Strome? Is that what you just did?
Yes.
Of course, every episode. Anybody who's new here, Eric hates Ryan Strome. Every episode, he's going to take a shot at him in one way or another. But I will say, you said something about Barbashev there where you were saying, he probably models his game after his brother. In fact, he does. There is a quote where he was asked, "Who do you model your game after?" Here's the quote. Quote, "It's my brother because we play the same hockey. I am a physical player that's strong on the puck." End quote. So that's who he models his game after. It's his brother. They play similarly. And again, you're right. The trend continues. Pretty much every offensive player here that we've talked about, all of them are super physical and they get involved defensively. Again, Barbashev is 18 years old. This past season, he notched 42 points in 59 games with the Wildcats. Again, Rangers getting another physical winger that can score some gritty goals. Not a fancy, cute little Ryan Strome. take an extra dribble or an extra shot where he doesn't need to. You know what I'm trying to say. Too fancy. No, we want physicality. We want grit. We want some power up at the front, right near the goalie, get in his face, start a fight. That's what Barbashev is going to bring. And of course, that's what Vittorio Mancini is going to bring. But moving on to the next pick, we're going to go ahead and discuss round 6, 191st overall selection for the Rangers, their final pick in the 2022 NHL Draft. And Eric, prediction. What do you think they drafted here?
Let me guess. A center.
Yes, they drafted a center. But what do you think the center's characteristics are?
Okay, he's probably going to be very gritty, likes to fight, probably going to end up on the 3rd or 4th line, brings a lot of physicality to the team.
There you go. That's it. Of course, the trend continues. Zachary Karpa, center, 6'2", 188 pounds, played at Harvard, real smart Ivy Leaguer. Karpa is 20 years old, is the son of former Ranger Dave Karpa. This past season, he registered 12 points in 33 contests. If you haven't sensed the trend yet, this is from Forever Blue Shirts. Karpa is a physical forward that isn't afraid to mix it up. Exactly. Likes to get in there, likes to get physical and gritty, just like every other selection in this Rangers draft class. This is a real blue-collar draft class. I know the old guys really like this one. Real blue-collar, physical, old-school New York Rangers draft class. Eric, what are your thoughts on the Rangers rounding out their draft class in the sixth round with another physical, gritty center?
You know, I've said like 10 times already this episode why I like players like that. So I'm just going to go with something different this time. I like the pick because he's a legacy player. You know, his dad used to play for the Rangers in the early 2000s. You think he was on the team for only like 2 seasons. And of course, I don't remember it because I was in like diapers when that happened. But hey, it's cool. You know, we got a former Rangers son on the team. So that'll be interesting to see.
Very cool. Love to see it. Again, very physical draft class. Really like what the Rangers did here. Want to highlight once again a phenomenal selection in the 5th round with Vittorio Mancini. Love the pick of the defenseman. And I do really enjoy the selection of Adam Sykora in the 2nd round. He's super young, limitless potential. You know, when you're drafting a player that's 17 years old, already good enough to be drafted in the 2nd round, limitless potential is what I see out of Adam Sykora. Very physical, as we've mentioned with all of these guys, but Adam Sykora got the ability to kill the penalty and provide some offensive scoring as well. So I do really like what the Rangers did in this draft class, just getting a lot of, you know, strong guys that can play up front. So Eric, final thoughts on this draft class before we wrap up here?
Very good. Hopefully none of them will turn out to be like Ryan Strome.
I think that's the perfect way to put it. Well said, Eric Wilson. Alrighty. So make sure to like if you did enjoy this video. Leave a like down below. Comment down below as well. What are your thoughts on this draft class? Who was your favorite player that the Rangers selected and why was it Mancini? Of course, let us know what you think of this trend of the Rangers of drafting pretty much a bunch of offensive players that are super physical and provide a lot of defense. Let us know down below in the comment section, and also let us know what you want to hear us discuss next. That's right, you guys can have a say in what we talk about on this podcast. So go ahead, suggest some topics. We're always down to listen and interact with all of you. Do give you a little shout out, say, hey, this video topic came from this guy. Go ahead, comment down below. We'd love to hear from you all. Again, make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Ring the bell so you don't miss a video. And we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Rangers.
He shoots. He's